tie-in between the bombing in Oklahoma City and 9/11. Joining us now from Washington is Larry Johnson, the former Deputy Director of the State Department's Office on Counterterrorism under Presidents Bush and Clinton. So, you think there's some validity to this?
I was skeptical at first, Bill. I took the evidence, I looked at it, and I started talking to some of the witnesses. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You've got several things going on here that have not been thoroughly looked at and need to be checked out. For example,
go ahead.
John Doe number 2 is probably a guy by the name of Hussein Hashim al-Husseini, former Republican Guardsman. The guy he worked for is a fellow named Samir Khalil. Samir Khalil was only interviewed once. He was interviewed just before the McVeigh trial, and nowhere in that interview did they ask him about the whereabouts of Hussein al-Husseini or the fact that Mr. Khalil has been allegedly linked to the Holy Land Foundation down in Texas. The relevance of that, Holy Land Foundation was identified by the Bush administration as one of the charitable groups that's sending money to terrorists.
All right. Now, you lost me, and I think you lost a whole bunch of other people, so let's just pull back. All right. John Doe number 2 was the man who was seen with Timothy McVeigh, correct?
He was seen with Timothy McVeigh 3 days before the bombing, the morning of the bombing, and he was seen by one of the witnesses getting out of the Ryder truck after it pulled up in front of the Murrah building, and he was seen driving away from the building.
All right, but the FBI has never really acknowledged that person, have they?
They started off looking for it, and then it dried up. My concern is this angle was never pursued, and to this day, the FBI has refused to exonerate this man. They've refused to go out and check out his alibis. And the real thing that concerns me relevant to 9/11, when he left Oklahoma in around 96, 97, he went to work at Logan Airport in Boston.
All right. Now, the man you are accusing of being John Doe number 2 is a man, you said a former Republican Guardsman. That's in Iraq. The Republican Guard is in Iraq. Now, after he left Oklahoma City, you say he went to Logan Airport in Boston?
That's correct.
And then what happened to this man?
We don't know where he is now.
How long was he in Boston?
He's been there at least since 1997.
All right, but you don't know where he is now?
Don't know where he is. In addition, Bill, there are 2 other former Iraqi...
Well, let's stay with this guy, but we should be able to trace this guy to Logan Airport, right? When he left?
Absolutely.
When he came?
Absolutely.
Do you know what happened to him?
I do not. I've looked into it to the extent that of what I can do with my limited resources.
All right, well, we'll make some calls and try to find out when he left there. But he was gone when 9/11 happened, right?
He was gone out of Oklahoma City when 9/11 happened. We don't know if he was gone from Logan Airport when 9/11 happened.
Okay, now, the Philippine connection, is there anything to that?
I think there may be. You've got some very odd things. Stephen Jones laid them out in his book. Where Terry Nichols, an unemployed guy virtually, who's not making a lot of money, he's making several trips to the Philippines, unexplained sources of cash, and there are other evidence that have been presented in a separate lawsuit which suggests that, in fact, the groups that were operating in the Philippines, Abu Sayyaf in particular, were involved with Terry Nichols and Tim McVeigh. Let's emphasize, Bill, this doesn't exonerate Nichols and McVeigh.
No.
It suggests.
Right, it's just a bigger picture that this may have been the first attack, and 9/11 might have been the second attack on American soil by organized terrorist group. Now, is it an Al-Qaeda connection at all?
I think that's very likely. One of the things that's evident right now in connection with this investigation, the motel in Oklahoma City, where the April bombing against the Murrah building was planned and executed from, that same motel figures in 2 of the 9/11 hijackers and Zacarias Moussaoui, who's currently in jail. Those 3 guys tried to check into that motel, and there's another fellow in Oklahoma City that links them to the April bombing against the Murrah building. So
how do we know they tried to check into the motel?
I've spoken to the owner of the motel. After the 9/11 attack, he called the FBI. FBI came out and interviewed him because he identified Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shehi, and Zacarias Moussaoui. They came in, they said, we're looking for a room. He said, I don't have any room. What do you need it for? They said, we're going for flight training.
And that was around the time of the Oklahoma City bombing?
That was the last week of July 2001, first week of August 2001, in that time frame.
All right. And just refresh my memory, that was before, after?
That was before 9/11, so this is about a month before.
Okay, but it was the same hotel they used to plan McVeigh student. All right, Mr. Johnson, very compelling. We appreciate it. When we come back, some people are very angry at the latest in trading cards. Victims of 9/11.
Lied to Judge Richard Mash about his affair with an alternate juror during Timothy McVeigh's trial in Denver. McVeigh's lawyers claimed Bailey tried to convince the women of the bomber's guilt. She never ended up serving in the jury.
Federal prosecutors won't back down from seeking the death penalty for former Norman resident Zacarias Moussaoui. He's charged with conspiring in the September 11th attacks. Attorneys say Moussaoui lied when he told investigators he went to flight school for fun, not for a terrorist plot. In a motion filed yesterday, prosecutors say they will prove he trained in al-Qaeda camps with intentions to kill Americans. And in the war on terrorism, a group that backs Osama bin Laden's terrorist network is taking responsibility for last week's attack near Yemeni's prime minister's home. No one was hurt in that